This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so welcome to this webinar on this Python. Python is a scripting language, and we know that that very language will be known as a scripting language, which is having interpreter. Interpreter means prior execution, each and every line will be translated. We're having the Angular script, we're having the Python script, JavaScript, we're having the R script, PowerShell script, Unix shell script. So all the scripting language will be nothing but will be executed through interpreters. So prior execution, line by line translation will take place. Python is playing a very vital role in multiple different technologies. So if you go for software testing, if you consider about the application tool that is the Selenium, there you can do the automation testing through this Python. In IoT, we can do the programming using Python. For console-based application development, you can use Python. For web-based application development, there is a framework called Django framework, and that is also Python framework. So you can find that in multiple different cases, Python is now being used. So yesterday I completed 3 days batch for Accenture that was also on Python. Today I had an interview for another training which will be going to start from the next Monday for Accenture that would be also on Python. So you see in the corporate, the Python is a very important programming language, and the different companies are developing their applications on Python. Python is having more than 24.13 percentage of share. If you consider 2019 third quarter up to, it is having that market share, and that is the highest. After that, we're having the JavaScript. So in this way, Python selection of a Python as a webinar topic is very important. Python is a very vast one. We usually conduct at least 3 days session for corporates and 8 hours per day. You know that 24-hour session on this Python, and then we can cover a little bit on Python. So Python is purely an object-oriented programming. You know that the Java, we usually call that Java 1.8, say 1.7, whatever we have done in your colleges, and that is, we think that that is a object-oriented programming. But frankly speaking, if you consider Java up to 1.8, it is not object-oriented programming, because there also we are having the idea of concept of primitive data types. So those languages which are having the concept of primitive data type, say int, float, long, double, in that case that language cannot be called as a fully object-oriented programming language. The first object-oriented programming language so far I have used is Scala. So that is object-oriented programming. But here in this Python, it is totally object-oriented programming. So if you ask me, can you prove that one? I shall say, yes, I can prove it. Let us suppose I'm just keeping one variable, say num1, and just writing 100 to it. So now if I put, say, num2, if I put this one as 12.34 in it, say I'm going for another one, say num3, I'm putting true in it. So just see, I've initialized 3 variables, and if I want to print their values, if I go for, say, print num1, if I want to print num1 along with type of num1, say what is going to happen. Let me do it for all the other 2 variables. If you go for the execution, you can find that each and every variable, that is the num1, num2, and num3, they're nothing but the respective class objects. I think you are getting my point. So here there is a class known as int. This num1 is int class object. So here we are having one class float. This num2 is holding this value, and it is float class object. This num3, as it is containing the boolean data, that is true and false. So you can say that num3 is also the bool class object. So here you can see that here we're having this code. This code indicates that it is something like your procedural language. Yes, in Python, trust me, it is nothing but totally one illusion. It is totally one illusion. Whenever you write num1 is equal to 100, actually you are defining one object under the class int, and that class object is holding the value 100. So that's why it is this num1 is equal to 100 is actually denoting, what does it denote? It is known as implicit object. It is known as implicit object. Just say I'm just writing say list1 is equal to say I'm just putting some values there. If you go for say tuple1, if I put a value say this one, and now if I print it, if I go for print list1 and also as usual type of list1, and if you go for print type of tuple1, if I go on printing and if I go on executing, you can easily find that this list1 is nothing but list class object, and this tuple1 is nothing but one tuple class object. So what are you getting here? What are you getting? You are getting this point that this num1, this num2, num3, whatever you are printing here, they are actually becoming the implicit object here, implicit object. So you are not defining this object as a object of a certain class, but it is getting defined accordingly. So if we define any function here, then also that is a function class object. So everything in Python is a class object. So that's why Python is a purely object oriented programming. So today, what we are going to discuss, you know that we are having so many different topics, at least 24 to 30 hours of training with the full demonstration of sample codes and all we can do only on this core Python, only on the core Python. Then we can go for the say web-based application development and other training programs. But as here, this webinar is going to have only 1 hour duration, so I have selected only a single topic, that is a how to define different user-defined functions and how to go for the lambda functions and so on. We'll be discussing that one into some details here. So let us go for the respective user-defined function definitions. To define any user-defined function, we always go for the keyword that is a def. Def stands for define. See here we are passing, say we're having say parameter 1, we're having say parameter 2, we're having say parameter 3. So parameter 1, parameter 2, parameter 3. So 3 parameters are there, and its body is very simple. I'm just printing that say this one, say so see here I've just written one function. The name of the function is funct1, and here we're having 3 parameters are there, and here I shall be passing values to these parameters, and those parameters will get printed. If you are not very much acquainted with this particular syntax, so let me tell you that here this curly braces will be denoting that they are the placeholders. They are the placeholders. So that is a placeholder number 1, placeholder number 2, but placeholder number 3. We know that Python is a zero-based language. What is the meaning of zero-base? Zero-based language means Python supports indexing starting from 0. Index will start from 0. So here this particular parameter can be called as it is a zero indexed placeholder, and this is a 1 index placeholder, and it is our 2 index placeholder. And this F stands for formatting. It is also known as smart format. It is available from the version 3.7 onwards, and that is the smart formatting. And here we're having the string. In case of Python, the string will be enclosed within double quotes or single quotes. You know that in case of Python, there is no difference between the double quotes and single quotes. So you can enclose one string or text within double quotes and also within single quotes as required. You know that in case of Java, each and every character must be enclosed within single quotes. And whenever you are trying to write something, say a string, then that will be enclosed in double quotes. So in our Java, we had a concept of character enclosed within single quotes, and we had a concept of string that would be enclosed within double quotes. That is the concept of Java. In case of Python, everything will be enclosed within double quotes, and everything is string. There is no concept of character. Everything is string. If you go for the R script, that is another very important programming language, and also gaining more and more popularity in machine learning oriented application development, data science and data analytics and data visualization related application development. That is the R programming. R stands for resource. And in that case, everything they used to consider that they are characters. So in case of R script, everything is character. That is a string. Whatever we feel that multiple character combination will form one string. In R script, that is a character, and single character will be also known as character. So you know that each and every language has got its own flavor, own notions, and so on. So we are supposed to mold ourselves accordingly. So what is happening here, you see, here we are having one function. The name of the function is function1, and def is a keyword which will define that you are going to define one function. So now if we pass parameters, so now call this function in this way. Just call this function. Say I'm passing these parameters, say 100, 200, and set 300. So if I execute this code here, you can find that I'm getting this one as part1 100, part2 is equal to 200, and part3 is equal to 300. Sometimes in our technical round, during the campusing in our technical round, we usually face two questions. Question number one is that what is the difference between parameter and argument? And another question is that what is the difference between a function and a method? So you know that there is a very common question here. So what is the difference between function and method? And what is the difference between argument and parameters? So here you can see in this particular cell, these 100, 200, 300 will be known as arguments. The arguments will be passed to the positional parameters. So they are known as the parameters, and also known as positional parameters. That is parameter at index 0, parameter at index 1, parameter at index 2. So they are known as positional parameters, and they will be known as the arguments. Now you might be asking me, what is the difference between the function and the method? Say I'm writing this one, say I'm going for my str, just for the sake of simplicity. My str is equal to, so India is a great country. I've written this one. So now I'm just going for this print, my str. I'm just printing this one, print len of my str, print my str dot upper. So here you can see that what is going to happen. So here this is my str. So if I go for the print of this type my str, you can feel that what is going to happen here. So my str is having the type that it is str class object. Try to get my point, please. So it is str class object. So whenever you are going for this type my str, it is telling that it is str class object. So whenever you define one variable, and then whatever you are writing within double quotes or single quotes enclosed, it will be treated as implicit object under the class str. It will be treated as implicit object under the class str, and that's you are getting this idea. So print my str, so it is printing the respective value. Length of my str, so now what is happening, length of my str means it is counting that how many characters are there in this particular string. If I go on counting, then obviously I'll be getting this 27. And then my str dot upper, so here this str is getting, the string is getting printed in the uppercase. Now see here, this len, see I've used len on this parameter passing is my argument passing is my str to this len. This len is known as a function. So we can say that here len is a function. And here you see, here we can say that this upper is a method. So that is the difference between function and a method. So what is this? Actually my str, as I told you earlier, it is nothing but str class object. Within this str, there is a member function, there is a member method, that is upper. So that upper can be accessed using object dot operator. What is meaning of this dot? Dot stands for membership operator. So dot is also an operator. It is called membership operator. So my str is nothing but one str class object, and this str class is having one method, that is upper. So my str dot upper is actually, you are calling this upper as a method. So whatever the questions if you are having in mind, I shall give you some time. In the last 10 minutes, we'll be taking all the questionnaire rounds. Just keep your question, just note it. I'll be taking that one in the last 10 minutes. Now, the thing is that you see here in this case, I've shown you, let me revise. So whenever you are defining variables and initialize with some values, automatically due to this implicit object, each and every variable would become object of some class depending upon the value whatever you are storing there. So I've also shown you this one using this list and tuple, and you got this idea. And this is my function. You can find that how this function is working. And if you go for the type, if you go for the print, if you go for the print type of this funct1, you can find that this function funct1 is also function class object. So everything in Python will be class objects. So that's why Python can be considered as purely one object oriented programming language. So you can find that this function one is also a class object, and name of the class is function. And whenever you are writing this syntax, that is a def function one, and if you pass any parameters, this parameter passing, this parameter writing here will be optional. A function may have no parameter there. So now let me go for some more details about this function. So I'm just taking this one in this cell, and let me go for some more elaborations. So now see, it is getting the same output. So what I'm doing is that I'm going for this function one with the value say 100 and 200 only. With the value say 100 and 200 only. Then what is going to happen if I go on executing? So the first line is working good. The printing is being done. As I told you, this F is actually stands for format, and these curly braces, whatever you are getting here, they'll be known as the placeholders. You can get them as placeholders. So now if you go for this function one, 100 and 200, and omitting the third value to be passed, what one error is coming? Whenever such error will come, try to get my point. Whenever such error will come, and in that case, what you are supposed to do? This red box is giving you this idea that some error has occurred here. So how to tackle the same? Whenever such error box will occur, you are supposed to note three things. Point number 1, 2, 3. So first point, what you are supposed to do? At first we should check that what is the name of the error. So name of the error will be shown here. The name of the error will be coming here. So that is the name of the error. I think you are getting my point. There is a name of the error. From here you can get this idea that what is the type of the error, that is what is the classification of the error. Here the name of this error is type error, so it indicates that some mistake I have done regarding the data type or something. Next one is that we're having this arrow. This arrow is indicating that which is the culprit line. So here the error has occurred in this particular line. So we'll be more cautious to handle this particular, to check this particular line very carefully. So there is a function 100 and 200. Now I'm telling you from my experience, from my debugging experience, for the 99% cases, or say for the 95% cases, you can find that error is actually located in this line. It has been denoted by this, but for 5% cases you may find error in the previous line also. So most of the time the errors will be found in that particular line which has been marked by this interpreter, but for the 5% cases you may find that the error is actually existing in the previous line. So that's why you should remain very much cautious, and this experience you can gain or if and only if you go on writing so many codes yourself, not copy and paste, and facing these errors and debugging it accordingly. The third point, you are supposed to see the error message. So this error message is indicating that this funct1 missing one required positional argument. I used this term earlier also. That means they are known as positional parameters. And here you are passing the positional arguments. So here it is having one positional argument, that is a part 3. For the part 3, we are not having any kind of value passed. So in that case, what you can do, we can have some default arguments. So what you can say that if values have been passed, then that will be assigned to part 3. If no values have been passed, in that case, the default argument 333, let it be here, will be assigned to part 3. So if I go for the execution, you can find that whenever the third argument is missing, so parameter will be taking the default argument, and that is our 333. So 333 is getting printed here. So now if I go for the another round, so if I go for another experience, if function 1 is equal to 100, and in this way, if I write this code, and here the same error is coming, the name of the error is type error, the victim line is this one, and it is telling that function 1 is missing one required positional argument, let it be part 2. So that means the part 2 has got no value here. Part 3 is already having the default argument. So this is known as default argument. So it is not causing any problem, but part 2 is not having. So what I can do, I can pass one default argument here. So now if I run this code, you can find that the default argument has been placed. So similarly, if you go for only funct1 without passing any argument, again the error will occur, and it will tell that funct1 is missing one required positional argument at part 1. So in that case, what we can do, we can make this one with the default argument like this, and if we execute your code, it will be working fine. Always remember, whenever you are trying to assign some default value, default argument to the parameters, then you should start from the right hand side. From the right to left, you should proceed, not from left to right. You cannot have the default value for part 1 and no default value for part 2 and part 3. So that will not be allowed. You are supposed to pass these default arguments from the right to left, as I did here. Also, you can do in this way, you can write this one in this way. So funct1, you can write this one as part 1 is equal to, say, this is, and say part 2. So in this way, you can see that how the things are working. So it is also working here. And now see, also you can write in this way. You can omit some of the points. So it is taking the default value because you haven't passed the value for part 2. So this 1000 and 3000, so they'll be overwriting the default values. But as you didn't pass any value for part 2, in that case, it is taking the default argument. So also you can write it in this way. You can have some different ordering, so that will also work. So you can have the default ordering, and that you can defer an ordering, and that will also work here. So in this way, you can find that how these parameters, how these functions in Python can have the default arguments. So now if you get this idea, so also let me tell you this one. Say I'm writing this one as, say, print, say, welcome, comma, then if you go for 2, comma, if you go for all, and then if you write this one as hello. Now the two questions are coming in mind here. See, just see here, it is a very simple code. See, so print welcome to all, and here I've written hello. Two questions are coming. From where these blank spaces are coming as a separator? From where these blank spaces are coming as a separator? See, I wrote this, I gave this particular double quotes very tight. There is no blank space before and after this welcome or to or all. So all these strings have got very tight enclosed within the double quotes. So from where these blank spaces are coming. So that is a point to be noted. And another point is that why this hello is getting printed in the next line, not in the same line. So these two questions are coming. So to answer this question, some of you might be finding, yes, I've separated by comma, so that's why it is coming with the what should I say, with the respective blank spaces. So answer is not logical. See, if you give more and more blank spaces there, if you give more and more blank spaces, you see, your final output will be separated by a single blank spaces, as it did earlier. So comma is actually doing the job for us. So that is not the valid answer. Now, from where these blank spaces are coming? In that case, what you can do, you can see the help of this print function. So just write help print and then go for execution. So here you can find that we're having this respective help of the print. Now, let me tell you that In our initial say a couple of years back also, we usually call those editors where we do our typing, execution of our code, compilation of the code, and then we usually call them as IDE, that is integrated development environment. And nowadays we call them as IDLE, integrated development learning environment. And yes, really, I'm also learning here. I'm also getting this idea that what is the respective help for this sprint. So also this Anaconda Jupyter lab in which I'm working today is nothing but IDLE, that is um, integrated development learning environment. Now let me explore more. Help on built-in function print in module built-ins. So this is a module name in which most of the usable functions have been defined, and this particular module will get imported by default automatically by the Python system. So without writing any import statement, we can work on it. But in our say Python mode, I think it is a version 3.4 or 3.5, when you did our programming, at first we used to write import OS, import sys, import others, some modules, math and so on, before working on this Python. But nowadays you see, I've started my coding, just see here, I started my coding without writing any import or anything, without writing any import. So that means there are some modules which will get imported automatically within the Python environment. And this is one of the module, is our known as the built-ins, the module built-ins. Next one is that this is a Python prototype. Do you know what is a prototype? That is a signature of the function. That is a, what should I say, that is our what should I say, the skeleton of the function. So now if you go for the detailing, it is telling the whole thing. First one, it is telling that a print must be requiring one value. So one value should be passed for this print. And next, this one, so we are having dot dot dot. So what is the meaning of this dot dot dot? So this dot 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 is actually denoting the operator. This is known as ellipsis. It is known as ellipsis operator. It is known as ellipsis operator. So this dot 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 is denoting the ellipsis operator. You might be asking me, what is the purpose of this ellipsis operator? This ellipsis operator will be enabling one function to have variable number of arguments. If you are not getting, I can tell you that. Say here, so how many parameters, how many arguments did you pass? Only one argument. What is that? That is our hello. How many arguments did you pass here? 3 arguments. What are they? So that is welcome to all. So 3 arguments, 3 arguments were passed. So here you can find that this print can work with 1 argument, can work with 3 arguments, can be also working with 6 or 10 or 12 arguments. So that is not an issue. So that means print function takes variable number of arguments. So this dot 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 will indicate that this function print is capable to handle with variable number of arguments. So that is my point number 2. Point number 3, it is having a separator, that is the default separator is a blank space. The default separator is a blank space. So if you do not have this blank space as a separator, but say comma as a separator, so you can override this one. See, you can override this one. So what is this? There is a default argument. This is a default argument, and whenever you are passing the parameter, so that will supersede the default argument. So if you execute, you can find that you are getting these commas there, and if you put comma blank space, so they'll be coming like this. So that is known as the default argument. As I used here also, we had this default arguments here, but whenever I'm passing parameters, and this parameter is overriding this default argument. Next one is that here you can see this end will be done with the /n. So as a result of that, this welcome to all, after printing this string, automatically one /n will be there. So hello is coming to the next line. So if you write this one, say end is equal to, if you write this one, say end is equal to, say one blank space hyphen one blank space, you can feel that if you execute, the hello will be coming in the same line with this particular delimiter as the end. So in this way, you can easily find that how you can handle this save and end there. So now the concept is getting clear. Next point is a file is equal to sys.standardout. We're having one term, the name of the term is console. So what is a console? Console is actually the default input output device. So whenever we read data from the console, actually we're reading data from the default input device, that is keyboard. Whenever we write data onto a console, that means actually we're writing data on the default output, and that is a monitor or display unit. So here it is telling that print is producing some output. So that output will be written on the standard output device, and that is a monitor or display unit. Next one is that we're having this flash is equal to false. What is the meaning of this term flash is equal to false? Everything has been mentioned here. I'm just going for more elaborations because these are the very common questions in the technical round, so you can answer them and your conception should remain always clear. What is flash is equal to false? Flash is equal to false means whenever we put some keyboard input, and the processor is the fastest device in the computer, so it is a very fast device, and keyboard, all the peripheral devices, IO devices are very slow. So whenever we are supposed to do a speed synchronization between the slow peripheral device and fastest processor, we must be keeping some buffer in between two rail compartments. We require some buffer because different compartments, adjacent compartments may be suffering accelerations, may be suffering retardations, so there will be a speed mismatch. So there should be having some buffer to do the synchronization. So here also, whenever we put some keyboard input, actually it is being stored onto the keyboard buffer in the memory, defined in the memory, and from there the processor will read. So now before issuing the print statement, if we want to flush the keyboard buffer, then we are supposed to write flush is equal to true here. So in that case, we can write here. Remember, in case of Python, this true and false should be starting with this first letter capital. So flush will be true here. So that will indicate that it is actually clearing the buffer space. So whatever, if there is any character unprocessed, unread by the processor kept in the keyboard buffer, so that will be cleared here. So that's why it is called flush is equal to true. Otherwise, the flush is equal to false is the default value. So now if you execute your code, you can find that you are getting this output as well. So I got this idea that how this command line, sorry, how these default arguments are also playing role in some inbuilt functions and defined in Python. So now this much we have done. This much we have done. We have got this idea that how the things are working. So let me go for the another program now. So here we are defining one function. The name of the function is func2, and here it is taking two arguments, that is a num1 and num2. So I'm just making this one total is equal to num1 plus num2. Plot is equal to num1 star num2. So here I'm going for this one as a difference, and here I'm going for say quotient. So see, 4 calculations have been done and it is returning 4 values at the same time. We know that from our very childhood days, when you start learning about C programming, so what was the definition of a function? So function is nothing but multiple number of statements enclosed within a certain module, and the function can take multiple no or multiple input arguments, and a function returns only one output argument. So that was told in our C++. Here you see it is returning multiple values. Really, is it returning multiple values? See, I'm returning tot, diff stands for difference, plot, product, and quotient cot. So in this way, so now what I'm doing here, see, I'm writing here T, D, P, and Q is equal to func2, and say I'm passing value, say this one. I'm passing value, say this one. So now if you go on printing, see, it is printing in this way. That means this function 2, whenever it is being passed with the arguments 130, this 100 is getting assigned to num1 and 30 is getting assigned to num2. It is doing the respective all the algebraic 4 operations, and then whenever it is returning all the 4 results, and this tot will be assigned to T, diff will be assigned to D, prod will be assigned to P, and quote will be assigned to Q. And whenever you are printing them, you are getting the summation, difference, product, and the quotient. So that is the quotient you are getting here. But if you go for this one, say result, is equal to, so func2, so I'm passing here the same arguments. Now if you print this result, and if you go for this print type of the result, you can find that actually it is returning a tuple. That is one container. Actually it is returning only one tuple class object. So function returns a single value, so that is also true here. Actually it is returning a single object. So what object, which class object? It is returning actually one tuple class object. So you are getting this idea that how this function is returning a tuple class object, and then if you print the type of it, you can find that it is printing, it is of the type of class tuple. So in this way, you are getting this idea that how the things are working. Also, you can print it in this way. You can go for the 0th index, then you can go for the result, say 1. You can go for this result. See, also you can print it in this way. So this 130, 70, this 3000, and this thing are getting printed accordingly. So a function returns one value. Actually, here in case of Python, you can say that a function returns one class object, and that object might be a container object and might be containing multiple different values at the same time. So this part we have covered. Now let me go for the another example. So I'm going for def func3. This is my num1, and here we're having say num2 is equal to none. So in our Java, it had the keyword that is a null. In case of Python, this is none actually. So what we are telling is that what we are doing is that if num2 is none, if num2 is none, so return say 2 star num1. You are doing this addition of num1 plus num1 actually, else you are returning num1 plus num2. See what is going to happen. So I'm just going for print. Say so return value is see, whenever you are passing only one argument, so that is getting assigned to num1. You are not passing the second argument here, so that is, so num2 will be assigned with this none. And if num2 is none, then it is returning 2 star num1, so it is returning 600. Otherwise, whenever you are passing this 300 and 400 both, so 300 will be assigned to num1 and 400 will be assigned to num2. And whenever it is telling that num2 is none will become false, it will come to the else part and it will return num1 plus num2, and here it would be highly for 300 plus 400, and that is a 700. So in this way you can find that how we can use this none as one of the default argument for a certain parameter, positional parameter. So that is the case you can handle with. Okay, now we know that this thing we have done in our C, C++ or Java, there is a recursive and non-recursive function. So I'm just showing you that Python supports recursion. So you go for say factorial, say I'm going for this non-recursive. So I'm just passing one num as input argument. So it's quite obvious that if num is equal to 0 or num is equal to 1, then you can go for return num, return 1. And then otherwise you can go for fact is equal to 1. Then we can go for say for I in range 1 comma num plus 1. Also you can use I don't know whether you know, all of you know the for loop or not in Python, so let me go for while. That will be quite convenient for all of us. So we shall go for set term is equal to 1. So while term is less than equal to num, so we shall go for fact is equal to fact star term, term is equal to term plus 1. In case of Python, you don't have term plus plus, but we can have term plus equal to 1, that we can write. So now we can go for say return fact. So if you erase this one, and then if you write say print, say here n is equal to 5, I'm writing n is equal to 5. So the factorial of num is, factorial of num is, so here we are having another placeholder, so we shall go for factorial nr n. So in this way you can print the respective factorial. Okay, I think that my point is getting clear. Let me revise once. So if I make this one as 7, so I should get the respective 7 factorial. Okay, good. So now what I'm doing is here is that I can also remove this one. So if fact is equal to 1, term is equal to 1, when the term is less than equal to num, you are going for fact is equal to fact star term. So you are just multiplying, and each and every time you are increasing the value of term, and this while will go on executing till it is less than equal to num. Otherwise it will come out and it will return the current value of factorial. So now if I execute my code, you can find that 5 factorial is 120 and 7 factorial is obviously it is 5040, because you are having the 6 factorial and that is my 720. So in this way you can find that how the things are working. So now can I do some betterment in this code? Yes, one thing I can do, I should start this multiplication not from this 2 1, I can start from 2 also. So that will bring some betterment in my code, but output is same. I've reduced one time iteration here. I've reduced one time iteration here. So one thing you can do, another check, if you want to reduce the iteration, you can initialize this fact with this num. You can initialize this fact with this num. So that is one thing you can do, so which will reduce. And also here you can just proceed up to term less than num. So in this way, if you execute your code, you can find that you are going to have the same output, but it will cause one error when the num will be 0. When the num will be 0, in that case it will be causing on one error. So if you go for if num is equal to 0, just type here return 1. So in that case also you can bypass this error. So in this way, see, in this particular program I have reduced the number of iterations by 2. Okay, done. So let me go for the recursive one. So def, so go for factorial recursive, go for this num, and then we shall go for, so if num is equal to 1 or num is equal to 0, we can go for here return 1. Otherwise what we are going to do, return num star factorial recursive num minus 1. So that you can do here. So if num is equal to 1 or num is equal to 0 or num is equal to 1, go return 1. Otherwise go for return num star factorial recursive num minus 1. So that can be also done. So let me just put it here. Let me call it and execute it. So in this way, I'm showing you that how we can do the recursive and non-recursive algorithm calling in Python. So you can find that it is working so good, and accordingly it is working. Okay, now we shall now go for the next type of function, and that is known as the lambda function. So what is a lambda function? In our Java 1.8, we had the concept of lambda function. So how to write the lambda function? Let me discuss. So my squared is equal to, I'm just typing this one as my squared is equal to lambda. So lambda is a keyword. You can find that it is coming in the green bold. So if you go for this num1, then we can go for say my square. So I'm just putting this one num1 star num1. Okay, so now we can say that if you go for n is equal to say 5, and then print So the square of n is my square of n. So the square of 5 is 25. So this is known as the lambda function. What are the features of lambda function? Lambda function is known as anonymous function. Lambda function is known as anonymous function. That means the function will have no name. There is a point number 1. Lambda function must be starting with the keyword lambda. There is a point number 2. A lambda function may have one or more than one arguments. There is a point number 3. Here I'm having only one argument here, num1. Then after writing all the arguments separated by commas, then the argument passing will be terminated by this colon. And the lambda function will have a single statement body. The lambda function will have a single statement body. And here I've written this, say num1 star num1. This my square is not a function. It is known as function variable. So Python is a functional language. That means here the function will be treated as first class citizen. So here a variable can hold a value. It is known as a value variable. And also a variable can hold a function reference, and that is known as function variable. So here this my square is nothing but a function variable, and this function variable, whenever I'm passing this n is getting assigned to this num1, and this num1 is now the respective single statement body will be doing the square of it, and it will work accordingly. So now let me go for say another one where I'll be passing say multiple values. So if you go for say my addition, if you go for this my addition and say I'm passing this lambda 1 num1 and num2 say, and if you go for say addition here, so you can pass here multiple values at the same time. So you are writing this one say n1, and then say I'm making another one say n2, say num2 is equal to say 10. So the sum of n1 and n2 is my addition n1 comma n2. So in this way also you can do it. So here you can find that how the things are working. Here you can find that how the things are working. So here you are passing this n1. So n1 will be assigned to num1, the positional argument. So now it is my n2 will be passing to this num2, and this is a body, single statement body. You cannot write multiple statements there. And this is a function variable that is my addition, and this function variable is holding the function reference because the function has got no name. It is anonymous function, and this n1 and n2 will be the respective parameters. You are passing these arguments, getting assigned on these parameters, and then the things are getting done. So the sum of 5 and 10 is 15. So now you see, I want to discuss one thing, that how can we do the recursion in lambda function? How can we do the recursion in lambda function? Before going for the discussion of the recursion in the lambda function, so let me discuss some other topic. Let me discuss that how we can have the ternary operator in Python. Let us suppose there is a series. Say there is a series. It is having the term say 4 plus 7 plus 4 plus 7. Say it is having a very simple term here. You see, it is having this one. So let us suppose it is a very simple series. We want to perform this summation. So how can I do this one? How can I do this one? So for n number of numbers, you are supposed to perform this sum. So we can write this one as num, say num or say number is equal to input. You know that input returns always a string. So to make it integer, I'm doing the typecasting using the method, using the function int. So please enter number of numbers. Please enter number of numbers of the series. Okay. So that is a sin. You shall go for say total is equal to 0. Total is equal to 0. I is equal to 1. So what you can do, you can go for while I less than equal to num. If you go for I less than equal to num, total is equal to total plus term. You know the first term is 4. You know the first term of the series is 4. First term of the series is 4. So I'm just writing this term is equal to 4. So total is equal to total plus term. And then if term is equal to 4, you want to make it term is equal to 7. Otherwise, you can write it here also, no issues. You can write it here. So that is not a point. Otherwise, you can bring it in the next line. So else term is equal to 4. So in this way, you are just swapping in between the term value between 4 and 7. So if it is 4, make it 7. Otherwise, make it 4. So that means otherwise, if it is 7, make it 4. So in this way, if you go on adding, and then please each and every time you are supposed to increase the value of I. And now if you go for so the sum of first m terms of the series is total. Okay, done. So in this way you have completed. So the sum of first num terms of the series is total. So now if you go for execution, see, if you go for execution, if I give the value say 5, it is giving me 26, really 26. Let me check once. So this is 11, this is 11. So 11 plus 11 is my 22 plus 4, and we are having the 5 terms, and so the value should be 26. Yes, 22 plus 4 is 26. Also you can go on writing this one. So you can write this one in this way, that term number is equal to I, and term is equal to term, and total is equal to total. So now you can also write in this way. So term is equal to I, term is equal to term, and total is equal to total. So that you can see that how the sum is growing. You can check it. So if you make this one say 5, you can find that term number is ranging from 1 to 5 quite easily. And here the term is 4 7 4 7 4 7. So it is switching in between this 4 7 4 7. 0 plus 4 is 4, 7 plus 4 is 11, 4 plus 11 is 15, 7 plus 15 is 22, 22 plus 4 is 26. So the sum of first 5 terms of the series is 26. So in this way, you can get this idea that how the things are working. Okay, I'm saving this program. Say I'm renaming it. I'm making this one say webinar Python. So I'm just saving this one. So if you require this code, you can communicate with us. We shall share this code with you. Now see, let me go for, now see what I'm trying to do here. I do not want to write this one. I want to write this one. It is a long statement. I do not want to write this. Let it be under comment. I want to write a single statement. So in case of Java, if I write this one, in case of Java, if I write this one, then what should I write? I should write in this way: if term is equal to 4, then question mark, so make it 7, otherwise 4. So that was the syntax in Java, but this syntax does not work here because it is Python. So this ternary operator in C++, Java would be having the syntax like this. So how to write the same here? So we will be writing this one in this way. So term is equal to 4 if term is equal to 7, else 4. Look at the very peculiar syntax. So actually you are writing the then part, true part at first. Try to get me. You are writing the then part or true part at first. What is the true part? If term is equal to 7, then 4. Otherwise else 4. So in this way you are supposed to write. Let me run it. See, if I give the value say 5, I'm getting the sum as term is equal to 4. Okay, let me check what is the mistake. So term is equal to 4 if term is equal to 7, else 4. Else 7, I think. Yes, you should make this one else 7. So if it is 7, make it to be 4, otherwise make it 7. So if I execute this one, if I go for 5, you can find that 1 2 3 4 5, the term is ranging swapping in between 4 7 4 7 4 7 and so on, and ultimately you are getting the value as 26. So see, this is a peculiar way to type the ternary operator in Python. But this is a syntax, very common syntax. We are very much handy and habituated we are working with it in our C, C++, and Java. So now I'll be writing this factorial program, I'll be writing this factorial program. There is a recursive one using your lambda expression. So how to write this one? So there I'll be using this formula. That means the ternary operator. So I'm just copying this one. I'm just writing. So my fact recursive is equal to lambda. Always remember the lambda function should be starting with the keyword lambda. The ordinary functions will be starting with the keyword def. You might be telling me, then what is the use of lambda function? Lambda function will be very much suitable for those cases whenever the function is having a single statement body. So you see here, let me tell you what is the advantage of lambda function, then we'll be going for the code. Just consider this one. Just consider this one. Here we're having this lambda function, which is taking a number as input argument and performing the sum of this. Or say here, it will be taking two numbers and performing the addition of this. So if you want to write the non-lambda, there is a def function. If you write, so if you go for say function, say 5, then you are supposed to write this one num1 comma num2, then colon, then next line, then total is equal to num1 plus num2. Just see, so many redundancies there. Then return, then return total. See, there's a big code. I had to write a big code here, but that can be done in this particular single statement. So here you can find the advantage of using lambda functions. And you know that in case of machine learning, in case of deep learning and other data analytics oriented application, whenever we require a function which will be having a single statement body, always we go for the lambda function. Okay, done. So let me write the lambda function for the recursive factorial calculation. So we shall write this one, say lambda, say number on which we'll be calculating this one. So one will be the return argument if num is equal to 0 or num is equal to 1. You know that you have written the true part, that is the then part at first, when the condition will be true. Otherwise you're writing the else part. So what is the else part? So num star my fact are num minus 1. So see, now let me take this where I wrote a factorial. Yes, now let me take this. I'm just taking this one. So the factorial of this is, so let me put this one here. So the factorial of 5 is 120 and factorial of 7 is 5040. So here you can see that how this lambda function can be used for the recursive algorithm development. So you know that Python is a big course, I've shown only the functions and all, but yes, if I get more time, I'll be going for more and more different variations of this and that. So I've given you a glimpse. I'm just those who are first time using Python or not that much acquainted with Python. So there are so many web resources are available. Please go through the Python tutorials and on. There are so many resources are available. Also, I'm having my album on the YouTube tutorial on the under the tutorials point channel. So there also you can go, you can watch. Please explore this Python. You know that Python is a very productive language nowadays. If you learn Python, then obviously only Python cannot give you the job actually. Some of you might be asking that what will be the salaries there, what kind of job we can get. Only Python cannot give you the job. But obviously if you go for any kind of application development or any kind of domain in which you are writing codes for the Python for some new research oriented applications, for some robotics oriented applications, then it would be more and more meaningful and purposeful, and more positive cases will be there to get a job, probability will be there to get a job. But at first please learn Python up to till object oriented programming and database connectivity, then do a project on that, and then after doing that, then come and go for other machine learning and other different application development, data science oriented application development. Python is so much enriched with so many modules and so on. So many pre-written codes are there. So we need not to write our programs always from the very scratch. We may write our programs using our modules and using predefined library functions. So thanks all. So now I shall be going for the questionnaire round. If you are having any questions, you can ask me.